Yo, what up everybody, it's your boy Goose, and welcome to the channel. In this video, we're going to showcase the Shadow the Hedgehog custom Yugioh deck. With the Sonic X Shadow Generations game coming out tomorrow, I wanted this video to be just about Shadow. So in this video, we're not only going to talk about the cards, the references to the cards, we're also going to talk about Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, Shadow the Hedgehog is a dark, brooding anti-hero from the Sonic the Hedgehog series, created by Dr. Eggman's grandfather, Gerald Robotnik. Shadow the Hedgehog first appeared as a character in Sonic Adventure 2, released on June 23, 2001 for the Sega Dreamcast. It was later released for GameCube as Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on February 12, 2002 in North America. Shadow the Hedgehog was first released on November 15, 2005 for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube. It features Shadow in a darker, more mature storyline with branching paths and moral choices. Now, before we start, these cards are fan-made. The art and characters belong to the artist and franchise respectively. Now, the following card types share the same effect. Spell cards can return a banished shadow monster to the graveyard. Trap cards can shuffle one shadow monster from your hand or graveyard into the deck as a cost. And monster cards, as a quick effect, can summon themselves from the hand of the graveyard by paying 500 life points, and can banish a shadow monster you control to activate their effects. First, we have Prime Shadow the Hedgehog. Unlike the regular Shadow the Hedgehog from the Sonic Adventure deck, video on the card here, this Shadow is a reference from the Shadow from the Sonic Prime series and is our deck headliner of the deck. Similar effects aside, Prime Shadow can add the field spell Space Colony Arc or any shadow spell or trap card from the deck to the hand once per turn by banishing a shadow monster you control. Next up is Team Dark Shadow. This card is 1/3 of Team Dark from Sonic Heroes. Also, that deck is in the card here. Similar effects aside, Team Dark Shadow is able to special summon a banished dark or banished shadow monster by banishing a shadow monster you control. Raging Shadow the Hedgehog is a reference to the trailer of the new Sonic X Shadow Generations set to release this weekend, depicting Shadow and his Doom Wing powers. Similar effects aside, Raging Shadow can banish a shadow monster you control so a shadow monster can attack directly. Next up is Terios the Hedgehog. And Terios the Hedgehog is the original design concept for Shadow the Hedgehog developed for Sonic Adventure 2. His name means reflection, representing Shadow's intended role as Sonic's dark counterpart. Similar effects aside, Terios can become Shadow the Hedgehog while on the field and banish a shadow monster to increase another shadow monster's attack and defense by 1,000. Next up, we have Riding Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, Riding Shadow the Hedgehog is a reference from the 2005 Shadow the Hedgehog game, where he's riding a motorcycle. Now, similar effects aside, Riding Shadow the Hedgehog can banish a shadow monster you control to add a shadow monster from your deck to your hand. Next up is Doom Morph Shadow. Now, this card is a reference from Sonic X Shadow Generations, where Shadow gets a new form. Similar effects aside, Doom Morph Shadow allows you to banish a shadow monster you control, so your other shadow monsters are unaffected by spells and trap cards this turn. Lastly, we have Doom Surf Shadow. Now, this card is also from the Sonic X Shadow Generation set to release this week. Now, similar effects aside, this card is allowed to banish one shadow monster you control, so you gain 1,000 life points. Now, harnessing the power of the Chaos Emeralds, we have Super Shadow. Now, this card can only be summoned by the effects of the Master Emerald. This card cannot be set. Once per turn, you can banish this card from your hand or the graveyard to draw one card. This card is also unaffected by other card effects. Banish this card during the end phase, and once per turn as a quick effect, destroy all other cards on the field. Now on with the spell cards. Now, as a reminder, each spell card has the same effect where they return a banished shadow monster to the graveyard, not as a cost, but as part of the effect. But with that, let's get on with the cards. We have here Sonic and Shadow. Now, this card, you can banish one Sonic or Shadow monster from your deck. This card is to commemorate Sonic and Shadow's team and rivalry. Next up is the spell card Zombot Shadow. Now, Zombot Shadow is a version of Shadow the Hedgehog who becomes infected with the Metal Virus in issue 19 of the IDW Sonic the Hedgehog comic series. The Metal Virus, created by Dr. Eggman, turns living beings into mindless robotic zombies called Zombots. When Shadow gets infected, despite his immense strength and chaos abilities, he is unable to resist the transformation and becomes a Zombot. Just like the Metal Virus, the spell card Zombot Shadow infects one of your shadow monsters, negating its effect and making it unaffected by other card effects, and banishing it during the end phase. Now, closing out our spell cards, we have the Space Colony Arc. Now, the Space Colony Arc is a research space station built by Gerald Robotnik, housing Project Shadow and the Eclipse Cannon. As a card effect, you can gain 500 life points. It can protect shadow monsters from being targeted by card effects. And when it's destroyed, it can destroy a card your opponent controls. Now we're on to the trap cards. Now as a reminder, all these trap cards have a similar effect where they shuffle a shadow card or monster from the hand or graveyard into the deck as a cost. Starting the trap cards, we have Shadow's Chaos Emerald. Now this card requires 7 shadow cards to be shuffled into the deck to special summon one banished shadow monster. That's because the 7 shadow cards represent the 7 Chaos Emeralds. This card is also treated as a Master Emerald, and if a shadow monster would be banished, you could banish it from the graveyard instead. Just like how Shadow can control time with the Chaos Emerald, you have Shadow's Chaos Control. Now this card allows you to end the battle phase, negate an attack, and special summon a banished shadow monster. And that about does it for this video. Comment down below your favorite card in the deck. What cards can be added into the deck? What franchise should it translate into a Yu-Gi-Oh deck next? Comment all of that down below. Subscribe to know when I post my next video. Feel free to check out my other custom decks in the playlist in the description below. But with that being said, I'm sending positive vibes and kindness to everyone and keep things PG. Positively Goose. Bye guys.